and everybody trying to poo-poo this.
But there are hidden gems of wisdom in some.
Right. So it's retroactive changes to reality.
But there are hidden gems of wisdom in some. But there are hidden gems of wisdom in some.
Jump on. All right. Cool. All right. So, what was I leading up to it? I don't even remember.
Welcome to Open Your Reality. What is causing the Mandela effect? What is the Mandela effect? What is its significance? And what is it telling us about this reality? These are the questions I asked Brian Staveley when I had him on my show last year, back in April. And in this video, I want to play a 10-minute segment with Brian explaining the answers to all of the questions I just asked. You know, oftentimes I'll conduct interviews and they'll go for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours long. And sometimes people don't tune in to watch them just simply because they don't want to watch the long form content, or for whatever reason, maybe they missed the show. But there are hidden gems of wisdom in some of these interviews. And I pulled out 10 minutes of it with Brian talking about the Mandela effect that I think you're really going to love. So without further delay, here's that clip.
Sure.
So even though this interview is more than a year old, I think there's some real hidden gems of wisdom in what Brian said if we want to kind of reveal what the Mandela effect is and what it's trying to tell us.
Hey, Brian, can you explain how we got this liver that goes from side to side?
And everybody trying to poo-poo this. Mandela effect is basically shifts in this reality with physical matter and other things. They believe that, oh, well, reality can't change. We must just be misremembering. And that's what really frustrates me.
Hey, Brian, what happened to the monocle? Can you please explain it?
Right. So it's retroactive changes to reality for how this reality operates, and we all live in this reality, and the reality is in flux. We're all experiencing it, and if people are honest with themselves, they'll know it's not a psyop. They're affected by so many changes.
Brian, how did Jiffy become Jif?
So many changes, and we also have incremental changes, which I'm sure we'll get to, but when we see incremental changes in front of us, that also shows us that there's actually more than two possibilities, 3 instances of this reality, 4 instances of this reality. So just because you might disagree with, let's say I present 1,000 Mandela effects today, even if you disagreed with 100 of them and you said that's bunk and what about the 900 that just shook you to the core?
Hey, Brian, what happened to Looney Tunes? How come it sounds like radio tunes?
What better way than to wake people up to the nature of this reality and to make changes in the most observed things? I look at this, always been that way. So anything that I tell you is a Mandela effect, you're still going to want to think, okay, well, it changed at a certain time and you'll never find evidence of that. No, it's always been this way.
Hey, Brian, how did the Ford logo get the loop? Please explain.
Also with Mandela effects, what will happen is when people want to say that this isn't happening, and of course, yes, I know people are definitely more aware of it because they can communicate through all the means that we have now. So that, you know, maybe it was always just as fast and people are just communicating about it now. You know, maybe it was always changing just as much. If you delve back into some of the ancient cultures, like, you know, the Hindus and some of these other people.
Hey, Brian, how did Pikachu lost the black tail?
They do talk about things relating to reality shifts.
Vague word. I'm saying like a computer simulation. I could see if the creator idea would work with that. The creator of that simulation would be making these changes. Because for me, it's not like random something here. Like it's not like CERN firing up and changing my neighborhood and changing lyrics and songs to have a deep spiritual message and all that. I don't believe any of that.
Hey, Brian, how did Kit Kat lost the dash?
Type of thing, because what if it's our consciousness that's altering some of it, you know? Because that movie incrementally changed, and matter we'll start with, where physical matter is actually changed, and retroactively all the way in the past. So when people are presented with the Mandela effect, say by a website or something, it certainly appears like they're trying to tell you about the Mandela effect.
Good answer, Brian. How did the Fruit Loom lose the cornucopia?
Put It's just gatekeeping us. What they're doing is they've successfully minimalized us to make people think it's all about movie quotes and brand changes and all that. While many of those are legitimate Mandela effects, it goes much deeper. What I'm telling you is this is not a brand change. I'm telling you, even if you had a box that's been in your basement for 20 years, if you go look at it now, it's going to be Kraft, not Stouffer's.
Sounds like you got a little lost there, but can you explain how the engines move to the front of the wing and the wings have double tails?
Official versions of just about almost every official version of something will change, like Mandela effect. But the Mandela effect goes retroactively all the way into the past. It includes video coverage, everything. So,
well, I talked to one person, but I'm going to talk to somebody else too. So what was I saying?
I want to know how the engines move to the front of the wing.
I mean, look at the King James Bible. King James Bible is obviously the Bible that's having the most changes and having the changes first in many cases. But I believe that the devil, basically, or the bad side, or the opposing force, came in with all the physical matrix, all the deception and everything on top of that. And I think that God is supernaturally altering a lot of this. And he's actually, a lot of the things that have changed seem to be exposing a lot of the fraud as well.
Thank you for explaining what happened to the Bible, but can you explain what happened to Curious George Little Tail?
But there are hidden gems of wisdom in some. But there are hidden gems of wisdom.
Tell me why God took his tail away.
Why is that? Well, I always speculated it's because it's the most observed. Why is Star Wars have so many changes in it? Well, because it's the most observed. Now, and I think there's a reason for that. If it also what we just speculated on, our consciousness, or if indeed it is the creator, like I tend to lean towards. I mean, there's changes in a lot of things that are lies.
Okay, so how did Star Wars famous line changed?
That are being pointed out. So make it simple. People want to say God and devil, and I don't know if those are real things or whatnot, but I think this. Now, I do think that the other side wants to do everything they can to make you not see this.
To give them their power away and took over, then was able to easily brainwash people at a certain point. And then, because like I always tell you guys, I'm not saying my theories are just theories. You know what I mean? I know that this is happening. I know it's profound. I know there's an intelligence behind it. And there are certain things I tend to say that I do know. Again, I don't know what's causing the Mandela effect. But what I do know is this reality is fluid. So that's why I always say some of the ideas don't really work for me. But even some of the ideas I'm against, people know I don't like the simulation idea.
So you think the simulation changed the wiener because you're a wiener?
Right? People know that. But I can't rule it out based on the fact this has to be a fluid reality, because we do see a fluid reality within a simulation, right? People know I don't like the simulation idea, right? People know that. But I can't rule it out based on the fact this has to be a fluid reality, because we do see a fluid reality within a simulation, right? I don't believe it's that. Well, you could call it God's creation, to basically sum it up.
Hey, Brian, what happened to the age? Can you explain that for me?
Created the earth, created all of us, beautiful human beings. Somehow, at some point in time, a whole fucking corrupt order, convinced everybody to give them their power away and, took over, then was able to easily brainwash people at a certain point, and then especially once they had the media and everything on their side, and was surrounded by fakeness and deception.
Those are really good answers, Brian. Can you explain the multiverse?
And I feel like the creator, now this is where you can go different directions with it. I feel like the creator of this realm, which I believe to be a supernatural force or a supernatural entity or supernatural energy, if you will, whatever word you want to use for that, created this realm. I don't believe it's that, but I like I say, there's certain ones I rule out for certain reasons. I think we're in, well, you could call it God's creation, to basically sum it up. Created the earth, created all of us, beautiful human beings.
Well, that's really deep thinking, Brian. But can you tell me why the T disappeared on Skechers?
Somehow, at some point in time, like, convinced everybody. People that say it's Satan doing the Mandela effect, even though I disagree. Same thing goes with that. I mean, that would work in the fluid reality as well. Give me 1 second. I need to take an Advil. My eyes are starting to...
Go ahead, Brian. Go take your pill from a stupidity pill. But can you tell me what happened to the T on Flintstones?
You know, not the opposing side, a different theory side that believes we are in a simulation. And there's many, like, I know it's a vague word. I'm saying like a computer simulation. I could see if the creator idea would work with that. The creator of that simulation would be making these changes. Because for me, it's not like random something here. Like it's not like CERN firing up and changing my neighborhood and changing lyrics and songs to have a deep spiritual message and all that. I don't believe any of that.
That's really deep crap you're talking about. But can you tell me how the cup of noodles lost the O?
And for the people that say it's Satan doing the Mandela effect, even though I disagree, same thing goes with that. I mean, that would work in the fluid reality as well. Give me 1 second. I need to take an Advil. My eyes are starting to get like a migraine coming on.
But there are hidden gems of wisdom in some. But there are hidden gems of wisdom in some.
I don't want that to happen.
Just don't overdose on your stupidity pills, Brian. So tell me how the Volkswagen got the gap on this logo.
Theories are my theories are just theories. You know what I mean? I know that this is happening. I know it's profound. I know there's an intelligence behind it. And there are certain things I tend to say that I do know. You know, again, I don't know what's causing the Mandela effect, especially once they had the media and everything on their side. And we're surrounded by fakeness and deception.
Okay, Brian, that's a lot of deception that you're talking about. How about the metal statue? How did the arm move from the forehead to the chin?
And I feel like the creator, now this is where you can go different directions with it. I feel like the creator of this realm, which I believe to be supernatural force or supernatural entity or supernatural energy, if you will.
Take your time. Don't hurt yourself.
Whatever word you want to use for that. Created this realm. Now, if you're somebody on the opposing side that believes, you know, not the opposing side, a different theory side that believes we are in a simulation, and there's many, like, I know it's a...
You can see that there's so many people walking around that are miserably failing the test.
Hey, Brian, I think you need to take some Imodium. Maybe this will help.
Now, I'm somebody that'll tell you, I don't think that people are going to be damned to hell or anything like that. I think that's all fear brought on by religion. But I do think that they are going to fail the test, and maybe, this is wild theory by me, by the way. I do think that they're going to fail the test and have to come back and repeat. What if one of the functions of the Mandela effect is like, let's say there's all these big things, lion and lamb and body changes and all that. For me, that's all hugely important. But what about some of the stuff that I still think is important because they're reality shifts, but what people would think are less important? Like, what's the purpose of changing which company Ed McMahon worked for? What's the purpose of change, even though that's top 3 Mandela?
So, Brian, please tell me why this picture exists.
Affect me. What's the purpose of changing the dash and the Kit Kat or whatever, right? Well, what if when these people repeat, right, they're in a different vessel, but their soul is here, and if things aren't tinkered with enough, What if they start to have a deja vu of their past life or something? So maybe the Mandela effect is multifaceted. It's a spiritual test to see who's ready for the next level. It's also...
Is anybody confused yet? Because I am.
There has to be some sort of good force that created us, created Earth, gave us life. I think for the most part, that is what's causing the Mandela effect. Because like some of the topics we talked about in the beginning that maybe we'll get to, what I've learned is to not trust what I'm told, trust what I've observed, trust what I've experienced, right? Trust my senses. Well, my memory is a big part of that, as well as my anchor memories and all these things. I'm not throwing that out because science says we're misremembering on a mass scale. It's completely ridiculous.
Here's an easy question. How did the heart move from the left to the center?
And they never address the residue in these articles. They never address the piles and piles and piles of physical evidence we have for every Mandela effect. And in fact, in many cases, what we remember, the Mandela effect community, if you will, has a lot more evidence of being the reality than actually what is the reality now. Like, go around and look for stained glass windows on churches or songs named after the wolf and the lamb. You're not going to find any. Eventually, and I mean, I'm going to say we'll find any. Very, 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 very little. In several years, there'll be more. But look for lion and the lamb, right? Everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, it's like same thing with Ed McMahon. In this reality, Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. They say he's always worked for American Family Publishing. Well, damn near every parody of Ed McMahon, they're talking about Publishers Clearinghouse and never American Family Publishing on all these different sitcoms and everywhere else. And, that's a huge one for me. He's from my hometown. He definitely worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. Now, here's the trick that gets played on people. Well, he worked for American Family Publishing. You have the two companies mixed up. Okay, that's what they're going to tell you. And that's what this current reality says. Like, you can go back, you can look at old videos of him.
But there are hidden gems of wisdom in some.
With American Family Publishing now, right? But here's the thing. Why do you have an image in your brain of Ed McMahon going to people's doors with a giant check and balloons? Because in this reality, he didn't do that for American Family Publishing either. He's never done it. He's never gone door to door. But you have that memory. Are you going to throw that memory away because some articles online or science tells you you're all misremembering and it's always been American Family Publishing? Nothing's happening.
And if you have the means to support the channel, anything helps. There are links below for PayPal and Patreon.